4:42 a.m., April 2nd, 2025. The Red Sea stretched endlessly, still and deceptively calm beneath a canopy of stars. To the sailors aboard the USS Harry S. Truman, it was just another night on deployment. The carrier glided through dark waters, her massive silhouette a floating fortress of steel and power. At over 1,000 feet long and carrying nearly 5,000 sailors, the Truman was more than a ship. She was America's visible hand in one of the world's most contested waterways. But while the crew carried out their routines, far beyond the horizon, war had already begun to take shape. In the hours before dawn, the Truman hummed with routine. Sailors on night watch monitored radar screens, while engineers below deck ensured the twin nuclear reactors ran without fault. In the hangar bay, rows of FA-18 Super Hornets sat fueled and armed, gleaming beneath fluorescent lights. Some sailors dozed in their bunks, rocked by the gentle rhythm of the sea, while others gathered in the mess hall, sipping coffee or scribbling letters home. For many, the carrier felt like its own world, a city afloat where days blurred together in cycles of drills, duties, and brief moments of rest. Life was a paradox, boredom pierced by sudden surges of adrenaline. But this night carried a quiet tension. The Red Sea had become a chessboard of rival powers. Shipping lanes were contested. Militias were armed with weapons far more sophisticated than in years past. And the Truman, with her escorts USS Gravely and USS Mason, was both a deterrent and a target. The bridge reported a clear horizon. Regional bases sent no warnings. Yet deep down, every officer knew that peace was fragile. Somewhere beyond the horizon, someone was watching, waiting for the right moment to strike. That moment came suddenly. At 4:42 a.m., the sky split open. From launch sites hidden in Yemen's rugged mountains, 15 ballistic missiles roared upward, their fiery trails carving scars across the darkness. Almost at the same time, more than 20 drones rose into the night, their wings humming as they surged across the water. Some carried explosives, others carried something just as dangerous, advanced jamming pods. Their target was unmistakable, the USS Harry S. Truman. Inside the Combat Information Center, alarms shrieked. Red icons filled the radar. Operators blinked in disbelief as trajectories locked in. The impossible had happened, a coordinated multi-vector assault. Some missiles plummeted from the upper atmosphere. Others skimmed low above the waves, stealthy and lethal. Lieutenant Commander Brian Hawkins, overseeing radar operations, would later recall it as the moment time fractured. 1 second, everything was routine. The next, the entire ocean had turned hostile. But missiles weren't the only threat. The swarm of drones unleashed chaos across the electromagnetic spectrum, static, false echoes, decoys. For 18 long seconds, Truman's phased array radar lost track of warheads screaming toward the ship at nearly Mach 5. 18 seconds in combat might as well be a lifetime. On the bridge, lights shifted to deep red. The captain's voice cut through the chaos. "General quarters, all hands to battle stations." Below decks, sailors leapt from bunks. Fire doors slammed shut. Damage control crews strapped on breathing gear. Gunners sprinted to the mounts of the close-in weapon systems, the last line of defense. Training drills had prepared them for chaos, but no drill could match the sight of dozens of inbound threats converging on their ship. The Truman Strike Group had seconds to act. Miles away, Gravely and Mason reacted first. Their SPY-1 radars cut through the jamming fog. Weapons free, hatches snapped open. Standard Missile 2s and SM-6 interceptors screamed skyward. Contrails spiraled into the night before colliding with fireballs descending from space. Explosions dotted the horizon as 5 ballistic missiles were torn apart mid-air. Debris rained into the waves. But the attack did not stop. For every missile destroyed, another pushed closer. Drones skimmed the waves, darting below radar arcs, their tiny frames difficult to detect and harder to hit. Some carried explosives. Most carried jammers that scrambled targeting priorities. Truman's second layer of defense fired back. Evolved Sea Sparrow missiles streaked from launch cells, exploding drones miles out. Fireballs lit the sea. drone fragments fell like burning confetti into the water. Still, several penetrated closer. The final defense came alive. Gatling-style CIWS guns spun with a deafening mechanical scream. In seconds, they spewed thousands of tungsten rounds into the sky. The metallic roar shook the ship's steel bones. One drone flew so low it seemed destined to strike. It knifed toward the carrier's bow, skimming the waves, nearly invisible. For a moment, doom seemed certain. Then a CIWS mount locked on and unleashed fury. The drone exploded in a fiery bloom just 400 yards from the ship. The blast slapped Truman's hull with a shockwave sailors would never forget. Despite the defense, one ballistic missile made it through. It struck near Truman's bow with a thunderous detonation. The carrier shuddered violently. Bulkheads rattled. Gear crashed to the deck. But fortune held. The missile had failed to penetrate the armor. Smoke poured through corridors, but there was no catastrophic fire, no reactor breach. The Truman still stood. After 20 brutal minutes, the storm ended. Over 30 hostile threats had come for the Truman. None had sunk her. Around the strike group, the night sea glowed with burning wreckage. The carrier floated scarred, shaken, but unbroken. The silence that followed was not relief, but anticipation. Every sailor knew this was only the beginning. America could not, and would not, let such an ambush pass unanswered. As dawn broke, Truman's crew shifted from chaos to control. Damage control teams scoured bulkheads, searching for cracks. Engineers checked reactor gauges again and again. Medical staff treated bruises, burns, and smoke inhalation. Miraculously, no one had been killed. Sailors swapped stories of near misses and firefights. A gunner recalled the scream of the CIWS. A medic calmed his shipmates in the smoke. A young seaman pulled two crewmen from a choking compartment when panic nearly overtook them. These small acts of heroism defined the night as much as the missiles themselves. Thousands of miles away in Washington, the first alerts hit Pentagon screens. Missile strike on U.S. carrier. Immediate response required. Within minutes, the National Security Council convened. The president was woken from sleep and rushed into the Situation Room. Admirals briefed the facts. The Truman was safe, no casualties, but the implications were enormous. An American nuclear carrier attacked directly. This was no accident. It was an act of war. The debate was fierce. Some urged caution. Escalation could spiral into regional conflict. Others demanded immediate retaliation, warning that hesitation would embolden enemies across the globe. The president listened, stone-faced, before speaking firmly. They fired on an American carrier. We will answer. Orders rippled outward. Strike packages were prepared, targets locked. The gears of war turned swiftly. By late morning, Truman's flight deck roared alive. Catapults flung FA-18 Super Hornets skyward, their engines screaming into the blue. EA-18G Growlers followed, their jamming pods humming. Refueling tankers and radar planes lifted into formation. The mission was clear: destroy the missile sites that had launched the storm. Hours later, Tomahawk cruise missiles erupted from destroyers and submarines. They skimmed the sea, then arced inland, striking hardened bunkers and hidden launch pads. Explosions rippled through mountain ranges. Mobile launchers were shredded before they could escape. Then the Super Hornets swept in, dropping precision bombs on command centers, drone warehouses, and communication nodes. Growlers blanketed enemy radars in static. American drones circled high above, guiding the destruction. The retaliation was overwhelming. In hours, the network that had unleashed chaos on the Truman was reduced to craters and twisted metal. Yet every admiral knew the truth. Modern warfare was never so simple. Someone had planned this attack carefully. Someone had supplied the weapons. And the retaliation, though devastating, was only the start of a longer storm. News of the attack raced across the globe. By dawn in Europe, headlines blared, U.S. carrier targeted in Red Sea. Markets shook. Oil prices spiked overnight. Allies condemned the strike as reckless aggression. NATO pledged support. Britain and France offered reinforcements, yet other voices spoke with caution. Moscow warned the U.S. not to expand the conflict. Beijing accused America of destabilizing the region. Across the Middle East, protests erupted, some against the attack, others against the U.S. response. The world was reminded in a single night how fragile peace could be. Back on the Truman, the adrenaline drained, leaving exhaustion. Sailors collapsed into bunks, reliving flashes of the chaos, the roar of guns, the shockwave of explosions, the blinding fireballs that came too close. Some wept quietly, shaken by the closeness of death. Others hardened with pride. The Truman's hull bore scars, blackened with soot and marked with dents, but she still sailed. Her reactors still hummed. Her aircraft still launched. Her crew still stood. In Washington, the president addressed the nation with solemn resolve. His words were measured but unyielding. They tested us. They failed. America will defend her people, her ships, and her freedom. History would remember April 2nd, 2025, as the night the Truman stood against the storm. The night layered defenses, human courage, and sheer willpower preserved a ship that was more than steel. She was a symbol of American resolve.
And though the Red Sea once again seemed calm, those who had lived through the night knew the truth. Calm was only ever temporary. The storm would return. And when it did, the Truman and her sailors would be ready.